everyone. Well, I am so grateful to have all of you with me today. Welcome to today's practice. My name is Ren Thomas, as you might know. Thanks so much for supporting me about coming out to practice today. I want to do the next few weeks on exploring a little bit of the chakras. So we will start off with that. We'll start off with root chakra today. Color for the root chakra is red, which is why I'm wearing the red. And the name of the root chakra is Muladhara, and it's located at the base of our spine. And we are going to start off with basically some thinking about the root chakra and how it makes us feel grounded. So we're going to try to do poses today that activate the root chakra and this feeling of being grounded. And so let's try to work on that today. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off with some seated poses and really get you to feel the grounding through your pelvis into the ground. I'm going to use a block for these cross-legged positions because I'm not super flexible. I have pretty tight hips. So if you feel like doing that, you can do that. You can also roll up the edge of your mat and sit on the edge of your mat if you want to do that. So we're going to start off there. And I'm also going to integrate some breathing today. Those of you who know my practice know I like to do that. And it also really helps with extending the benefits of yoga. So we know that from a lot of studies now, yoga is both physically beneficial as well as mentally. And that deep breathing really helps us. So let's start off with some deep breaths. If we sit in this cross-legged position, either leg in front, close your eyes. See if you can try to lengthen your spine as you inhale. Exhaling, feeling the weight of your hips and the sides of your feet here into the mat. Inhaling, growing tall. Exhaling, rooting down. Inhaling. Exhaling. Feeling connected. Let's inhale. Exhale one more time. Now opening your eyes, what we're going to do here is some side stretches, and we're going to repeat this through the practice today. So inhaling, take the left arm up, sliding the right arm over to the side, and stretching over. You're going to probably feel this in your rib cage, maybe down into your right hip, depending on how long it's been since you did this kind of stretch. And what I'm going to do is try to point out where you should feel these different poses in your body, because we all have different levels of flexibility. So for this one, taking it as we breathe in, we're going to extend the left arm out further. And maybe as you turn right, try to ground that left hip down so you can really get a nice stretch through the left rib cage. Let's do one more breath. Exhaling. Inhaling back to center. Take a tall spine again, and then taking the right arm overhead, sliding the left arm down the mat. Now here, you're feeling it through the rib cage, pressing the right hip down this time, so you can feel it down there in the lower ribs. And if you can, maybe you might want to see if you can maybe look up towards the ceiling a little bit. You don't want to crank your neck, but just maybe take your gaze up, and maybe you can turn your rib cage a little bit more to the top, the ceiling. One more breath here, and exhale. Coming back up to center, we're also going to do a simple twist from our simple Sukhasana seated position. So we'll try the right side again, inhaling. Now when we exhale, we're going to twist first the belly, then the chest, then the shoulders, and finally the neck, and lastly the head. And placing our right hand behind us for stability. Feel those hips grounding down. Let's take one more breath. Inhaling, coming to center, exhale. Take another nice inhale, long spine. And exhaling to the side, taking that left hand behind us this time. And keep this twist gentle. We're going to get more flexibility as we go on today. coming back to center. Exhale. Let's come down to child's pose. So you can either take the, I would take the wide-legged here, so take your knees as wide as your mat here. Sink back onto the hips. So we're going to feel that nice grounding through hopefully the backs of our feet here. Some of you may get your hips lower onto your heels. And then we're going to slide our arms forward, pulling the belly in. And if you can, taking your head to your mat. If you can't, take one of your blocks and bring your head to the top of the block. And again, the blocks have different heights. It's medium height, so that's as far as down as you can go. That's great. And you should be feeling the stretch through your hips, but also through your forearms and your shoulders. So that's where we want to feel that stretch. Let's kind of come up onto our fingertips and slowly walk our fingertips over to the right side, getting a stretch again through the rib cage. See if you can pull that left hip back a little bit. One more breath here. Exhaling and inhaling back to center. Stretch out again one more time. And then coming up on the fingertips, walking over to the left side this time, and then relax down, getting a stretch through right shoulder, right forearm. Now you might get a little bit through that right hip if you're pulling that right hip back a little bit. Let's do one more breath. And gently walking the hands back to the center. We are going to come up to onto our knees. So bring your knees basically shoulder distance apart here. And we're going to come into Anahatasana, which is heart chakra pose. And for this one, we are going to, so starting with our hands below your shoulders here, we're going to gently walk forward. So this is going to stretch through our shoulders. Now again, have your block handy, because if you can't bring your head all the way to the mat, you want to be able to have a block there. So for this pose, we're going to sink forward, and we're going to get a nice stretch through our shoulders here. So hips should be basically right over your knees. And you're going to sink, relax your chest into your mat. Good, and let's just walk our hands in a tiny bit here, and we're going to do thread the needle. So we're going to take our left hand, sliding it under the right, and rotating, stretching out those shoulders. And inhaling back to center. And exhaling, sliding the right arm under the left, coming to rest gently on the side of the head. And inhaling back to center. And we're going to come up to the table position. And let's stretch out our spine a little bit in the back and forth. So we're going to look up, drop the belly, and then round the back, drop the head. Exhale. Inhaling, looking up, and dropping the belly. Exhaling, looking down, rounding your back. Inhaling, looking up, dropping the belly. Exhaling, rounding the back. Looking through the legs. This time looking up. Now we're going to tuck the toes, pressing it back into downward facing dog. Exhaling back, or inhaling back. Looking up again. Exhaling, rounding the back. Inhaling, dropping the belly, looking up. Tuck the toes, press back into downward facing dog. Adho Mukha Svanasana. Exhaling, coming back down. Let's do that one more time. So we're going to inhale, exhale, rounding the back for cat pose, inhaling, looking up, and last time tucking those toes and pressing back, Adho Mukha Svanasana, downward dog. Let's do one more inhale, and then step up to the top of your mat, forward fold position, and let's just release here for a minute. Bend your knees generously so your stomach comes to rest on your thighs, and hopefully you get your hands to the mat. If not, bring your hands to your block, and just see if you can let your neck just angle here, be loose. A minute. Maybe shake your head from side to side, loosen that up. I'll just get tight neck sitting at computers all day. Okay, we're going to inhale, come up about halfway, lengthen your spine nice and straight, and then release back down again, forward fold, inhaling, hands all the way up to extended mountain, and release to Tadasana, mountain pose. Okay, coming into our sun salutation, Surya Namaskar, we're going to inhale, extended mountain, exhale, release everything down, forward fold, Uttasana. Inhaling, halfway lift, Ardha Uttasana. Exhaling, planting the palms, step both feet back, and now lower all the way down to the mat. Now, take the backs of your feet, press them into the mat, keep those legs nice and active for Baby Cobra. So Baby Cobra, just lifting head and chest. I can lift my hands from the mat here, I'm not using my hands. Just using our back muscles. So inhaling here, exhaling, tucking the toes, press back, Adho Mukha Svanasana, downward facing dog. So in downward dog, nice dynamic pose. We're going to be trying as we're inhaling here for a few breaths. As you inhale, try to bring your hips up, lift your hips up. As you exhale, ground down, again, rooting down into the mat, all of your fingers and all of your toes. Let's try a couple more breaths here. And exhaling all the air out. Step to the top of your mat. Inhale, halfway lift, Ardha Uttasana. Exhale, release down. Inhale, rise up, and exhale, mountain pose. Let's do one more round. Inhaling. Exhaling, hinging at the hip. Now, if you can't touch the ground, remember you can bend your knees. You can always bring your hands, to your knees here or to your legs. Probably the easiest way is to bend your legs. Let that head dangle a little bit. Inhaling, halfway lift, long spine. Exhaling, planting the palms, stepping back. Plank, lowering all the way down. Press the backs of those feet into the mat, ground down there. Let go of the hands and just lift the head and neck for Baby Cobra, Bhujangasana. Now, tucking the toes, plant the hands, downward facing dog. Adho Mukha Svanasana. Try to play that a little bit here. See if you can press that shoulders, open up through the chest here. Remember to ground down through hands and feet, so maybe heels can be pressing towards the mat. Inhale, and last exhale, stepping to the top of the mat. Inhale, halfway lift, Ardha Uttasana. Exhale, release down, Uttasana, forward fold. Now inhaling all the way up for extended mountain and release to Tadasana or mountain pose. Let's try a balanced pose here. So we'll come into tree. You can stay where you are. I'm just going to turn so you can face. I can face you. Coming into tree pose. So we're going to take our energy into our right foot. Now again, this is root chakra. So let's think of that energy from the root chakra, the base of our spine, extending all the way down to our mat. And we're going to take our left foot to right ankle the way it is here. That's a basic pose for tree. Now, those of you who have a little bit better balance, you might know this pose already. So you can take your foot higher on your leg to keep your balance Pick a spot on the wall in front of you and stare at it, your drishti point. Keep yourself here with your hands on your waist, or you can take your hands up in front of you at shoulder height for more of a challenge, or all the way up. So we'll see how you do with your tree, and if it's firmly rooted, and if not, that's okay, that's something to work on. It's spring, right? So we got all those roots reaching down into the newly defrosted earth here. So, that's all right. If you don't have it the first time, that's okay. Come back into it. Let's stay here for a couple more breaths. So you can ground down into that right foot, and we're reaching up. And let's let everything go. And shake those legs out. Let's try the left side. So, again, taking your energy into the left foot, ground it down into the earth. Feel the energy from that root chakra going all the way down your leg. And all that other energy, bringing yourself upright, keeping yourself upright here as you take that right leg and take it somewhere on your leg. Let's avoid the knee area so that you're not putting any pressure on your knee joint, but otherwise, take your foot anywhere that you want to on your leg. And again, hands at the waist, or choose your option. Let's take 2 more breaths. Last one. And let all loose. Shake those legs out a little bit. We're going to step up to the top of our mat again, and we're going to come into Surya Namaskar B. So taking an inhale, we're going to sink our hips back into Utkatasana, fierce pose. Why is this fierce pose? Okay, you're sitting back at your hips. Take a look down at your feet. See that you can actually still see your toes. If not, you're going to press your hips back a little bit more. As you do this, reach your hands forward. Gaze forward and slightly up. Let's take 2 more breaths here. And exhaling, forward fold, Utkatasana. Inhaling, rising up to halfway lift, Ardha Uttasana. Exhaling, planting the hands. Now this time we're going to go plank to low plank, Chaturanga. Here, if you want to, instead of baby cobra, taking upward facing dog, Urdhva Mukha Svanasana. For this pose, backs of the feet are pressed into the mat. Belly is lifted, legs are lifted, everything's active, and you're getting a back bend. But if not, feel free to take the baby cobra again. 1 more inhale, and then tucking the toes, pressing back, downward facing dog. Adho Mukha Svanasana. Take an inhale, right foot steps up to right hand, warrior 1. On the right side, Virabhadrasana A. Now we're going to step that front foot in a little bit, dropping the hands if you want to. Let's turn that back foot out so the back of your foot is parallel to the back of your mat. For warrior 2, stretching the arms out, sinking down over that front foot. Virabhadrasana B, or warrior 2. Okay, 1 more breath here. And let's drop the arms, bringing that foot back so it's pointing about 20 degrees from forward. Stepping the right foot out a little bit. And we're going to come with fingertips to the ground. Stepping the foot back. And we're going to do plank, low plank. And then sweeping up, upward dog or baby cobra. Exhale, tucking back, downward facing dog. Let's Try that on the other side. Inhaling left foot to left hand, coming up into Warrior One, Virabhadrasana A. Now here your back foot is rotated a little bit, but only about 10 or 15 degrees. Your rest of your body is facing forward, and see if you can sink down. We'll take a couple more breaths here. Transitioning to Warrior Two, you can drop your arms, stepping the foot in a little bit so that your front heel is parallel to or lines up with your back arch. Rotating that foot out so that it's parallel to the back of the mat. And then raising arms for Warrior Two, Virabhadrasana B. Like most poses in yoga, it's a balance between ease and effort. Find the spot where you're getting some, obviously, strength building through through the legs and through the arms, but your core is relatively stable. Let's take one more breath. And then dropping the arms, we're going to transition back to the Warrior One. So stepping the foot back out, rotating the foot a little bit more forward, and coming back into that Warrior One pose. We're going to take our hands to the mat, step back, plank to low plank, chaturanga, and then inhale and upward facing dog, or baby cobra. Exhale, downward facing dog. Inhaling here. Exhaling all of your air. Step or hop to the top of your mat. And inhaling, halfway lift. Exhale, release. And inhale all the way up. Let's release. Now we're going to come into a high lunge with a twist. So to do this, let's try our right foot forward. Left foot is going to step back. So we're in a high lunge, which means we're on our toes here, the back leg. Our front knee is basically not coming anywhere further forward from our ankle, and we're going to raise our arms up for the first couple of breaths. Now, once you have your stability, see if you want to take a twist today. So to take the twist, you can keep your arms simple by just maybe taking your right arm behind your back, twisting like this. Probably the simplest version. The more complicated version, or more challenging, is to take your hands into prayer pose, take your spine straight, bending forward, and then hooking the elbow just over the knee so that you can turn to the right side. Working on those basic twists and crescents like we did earlier with our child's pose. Let's take one more breath here. And then coming back up to center, we're going to take our hands back and maybe our gaze up a little bit. Anjaneyasana, crescent lunge. So you should feel this through that left hip flexor, left calf, and then right quad. And exhaling, we're going to come down. And what we're going to do is we're going to turn, walking the fingertips so that we're facing the side of our mat. Now we're in an open V forward fold, Prasarita Padottanasana. Now, again, this is another one where you might need your block. Feel free to take your hands to block if you need to. So we're hinging at the hip, so we're trying not to curve our back or arch our back, round our back, I guess. So back should be fairly straight right now. So what you want to do is, as long as you can keep your back straight, bend forward, and then just release your head down. This way we're not pulling in the low back, and we're feeling the stretch really in our hamstrings and through the backs of our thighs and our calves. And you should be able to get a nice release for your neck here. while you're still grounded into the hands and feet or into your block if you need a block. So there's still a lot of grounding in this pose, but there's also a lot of release. Okay, let's take one more breath. And then we're going to rotate, walking our hands over, down facing the back of our mat here. So we're now going to come up into high lunge on the opposite side. So our left foot is now facing forward. We're going to come up to the high lunge. A little bit challenging, so take a few breaths to get your balance here. Pulling that belly in and pulling that pelvis forward a bit, you should feel a nice stretch again through that hip flexor on the right side this time. So we're going to stay here for another couple breaths. And now taking that twist, again, taking either the first version, which is just to take your hand behind your back, turn to the side like this, staying more upright. That's a good option if your balance is maybe not great today. We're all different, each day is different, right? If your balance is a little bit better, feel free to take a more challenging pose, taking heart chakra or taking your hands to heart chakra, and then hooking the elbow behind or by the knee as we twist. Keep that spine long, that's going to help protect our low back. And we'll stay here for 5 breaths. Last breath. Inhaling, coming back up to the high lunge. Take your time. Pull the belly in for your balance. Maybe you might want to straighten that leg here. But we're going to just take our gaze up, take our hands maybe a couple inches back for crescent lunge, Anjaneyasana. Few breaths here. And coming, sweeping hands all the way down to the mat. Again, taking those fingertips, walking to the side of the mat, coming into that open V forward fold, Prasarita Padottanasana. Releasing your head forward, but again, remembering just come down so that your back is flat as much as you can, using a block if you need to. And then just release your head forward so that your neck can release a little bit. Okay, we're going to come up to about halfway. So take that long spine. So you're only about halfway up. And you're going to walk your feet in just a little bit. So they're a little bit wider than hip distance now. Let's say maybe about 2.5 feet apart. Take your hands to your hips and raise yourself up. We're going to come into goddess pose. So for goddess pose, we want to make sure that our knees and our feet are rotated out and that they're kind of going in the same direction. So you want to have your feet way out. You want to have them in the same kind of general direction. So if you want to bend your knees a little bit, you can see, make sure they're kind of lined up. That helps protect our knees. So we're going to come into our goddess pose by sinking down, down, down as much as you can, and then taking your arms up at right angles for goddess pose. Now, pulling your belly in, see if you can pull your shoulder blades together a little bit. Pull your shoulders back so your shoulders are over your hips. And see if you can sink down a little bit further. Let's do a couple more breaths here. It's a really tough one. One more. And releasing, coming up to star pose. Let's extend both arms and legs out long for star pose. Great. Okay, we're going to take, then hinging forward at the hips again. We are going to take our feet a little bit closer in for Hara squats. Now again, you might need your block If you have tightness in your hips, you can use a block here. An easy modification for you. We're going to do hara squats into Malasana, which is our squatting pose. And so the first few squats are like just to get us warmed up and into the squatting position for flexibility. Really nice grounding pose for sitting with the root chakra. So for hara squats, let's hinge forward, bringing our fingertips to the ground. Now we're gonna bend our knees gently, coming down into a squat. Here's where your block could be. Coming back up, exhale. Inhaling, sinking down. And forward. One more time. Now this time, we are gonna stay here. So again, if you have any knee or hip issues, feel free to stay with your block. And if you can, bring your palms together in front. If not, absolutely fine to stay like this. If you have no issues with your hips or your knees, feel free to remove that block and come into your squatting pose, Malasana. The Sanskrit translation for this pose is garland pose. I think it's a new one. So here we are. We're going to stay here for a few breaths. Grounding down through the feet. And if you can think of this Muladhara, this root chakra, is right at the base of our hips here, right? At the base of our pelvis. So we think about grounding down through the hips as well as through the feet in this pose. Let's take a few more breaths here. Last breath. And exhaling. We're going to do those hara squats again to get ourselves out of this pose. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Okay, let's walk our feet into the center. Give our legs come up. Give our legs a little bit of a shake here. And we're going to try Pashasana, which is another squatting pose. So for this one, you're going to need your block for sure behind you to support your heels. So this is another squatting pose. It's a little bit more challenging because our feet are actually going to be together for this pose. And we're going to integrate a twist as well. So coming into Pashasana, you might want to come forward into forward fold first, and then down into Pashasana. So here, I want that block underneath your heels so that you can comfortably get upright in this squatting position. So with traditional Pashasana, we would just have our hands in heart chakra. Let's sit here for just 2 breaths. And then let's try inhaling, rotating to the right. Now again, you can take a more simple rotation here, or if you have a little bit more flexibility, you might want to lean forward a little bit, taking the hands to heart chakra and try to twist forward into prayer, or twist into prayer. These twisting poses they're really good for grounding, but they're also really good for releasing this pent-up tension and all kinds of other energy that accumulate in our bodies. Let's do 2 more breaths. And inhaling, coming back to center. Now we're going to turn to the left side. Inhaling, exhaling again. Simple twist or more challenging twist. One more breath. And coming back to center. Taking that block out. And we're going to come onto our seat here. Yeah, okay, so we're going to come all the way onto our back. And we're going to do some abdominal work. So here on our back, obviously we feel nice and rounded. Thinking again of that root chakra. it is actually fairly grounded here because we are going to keep our pelvis nice and steady while we do a couple of leg lifts. So the first one is single leg lifts. Now, if you have any low back pain, I'm going to suggest that you take your left leg and have it bent, taking your right leg up. If you are fine, you don't have any low back pain, you're able to maybe keep that the left leg straight. And we're going to simply lower our right leg and raise. Lower and raise. And we'll keep going for 7. Keeping your pelvis as grounded as you can. You can keep your shoulders as grounded as you can as well. And whenever you reach 7, you can extend your leg all the way down. Try to extend your legs to the outside of the room here. And then again, we're going to take the left side this time, so maybe you might want to bend your right leg. Put that foot flat on the ground so it's nice and steady. Lifting the left leg up, flexing the foot, or if you want to keep that bottom leg straight, feel free to do that. And we're going to lower and raise. Lower and raise. And again, we'll do 5 more of these. Paying attention to the grounding in that hip, pulling the belly in. And now this time we're going to bring both our legs up. Now notice your hips are nice and steady here. We're going to raise our head a little bit. Don't pull on the neck, but just like allow your head to rest in your hands. And we're going to do some double leg lifts. So we're going to lower our feet, but we're only going to go about 45 degrees, and then back up. And lower, and back up. Lower, back up. Number 4, 5, 6, and 7. Raising those legs up, and then bending your knees, taking your knees in a circle. You allow your sacrum to get a nice massage here, and switching directions. One more ab exercise, which is the water wheel. So for water wheel, we're actually going to, imagine as if you're bicycling, pedaling a bicycle, but you're using both your feet at the same time. So we're going to extend our legs out long, and then bend them and bring them back in. Extend your legs, bring them back in. Extend, bring them back in. This is called water wheel. In and release. Great, maybe just taking our legs from side to side, windshield wiper, Suchirandasana. Okay, again, feeling ourselves nice and secure here. We have everything we need all in this place on our mat. So we are going to come into bridge pose, Setu Bandha Sarvangasana. So for this pose, we're going to bring our heels as close as we can into our buttocks, and we're going to press up and at the same time lift our arms. So this is called floating bridge. So we're going to press up and raise our arms, and then release. Press up, raising our arms, and then release. Pressing up, and release. And releasing down last time. Now, optional, we're going to take floating bridge here. So for floating bridge, you're going to need a block. Feel free to either put it at the low level or at the medium level. What we're going to do is we're going to press ourselves up into our bridge pose. When we're up here, we're going to slide that block underneath our hips, making sure our hips are equally supported, so that it's equally placed, so that we can just release our hips down into that block. This is a really mild inversion pose. Feels really great. I feel like it feels really great on my hips. But I find it very grounding. Your feet are grounded. Your feet are definitely pressed firmly into the ground. Your shoulders, your head. And it's very relaxing. Let's take a few breaths here. Now, optional, you can stay here as long as you want. Or optional to go into supported shoulder stand. So you're going to raise your one leg and then the other. And as long as you have a firm foundation here, you're firmly rooted in that block, you can raise your feet up as well. Another pose that's really, really relaxing and a nice inversion kind of towards the end of our practice. Okay, we're going to join those of you back who are still in bridge pose, supported bridge, lowering one leg at a time. And to come out of bridge pose, I'm just going to press to lift up my hips and remove that block from underneath my hips, stretching my legs out long. Now before we go into Shavasana, those of you who have wheel pose in your practice, this might be a good time to practice it. Those of you who don't, that's fine. Just an option for those of you who wanted to try that today. And if not, you can get ready for Shavasana by taking any other extra stretches that you need to take, and we will join you there in a minute. Okay, so coming into Shavasana. Thank you very much for joining today in your root chakra practice. I hope that you feel grounded through today's practice and that you'll continue to work on yoga and hopefully meditation. Even just taking a couple minutes a day is really helpful. Thanks so much for joining me today, and I'll see you